Last day of the first week of my newly revised training program. I shouldn't probably call it a week because it goes over 8 days and then it repeats, so maybe cycle. I don't want to use terms that are over my head. I'm just training every day. But everything repeats in the end, and this last one started off with some explosive sled pushes, superset with handstands. And I actually recorded a good one here. I only recorded one sledge push. There was nothing unusual from the previous times. I was pushing 125 kilos for a few sets and getting in some nice volume with my handstands here, going for a bit of a movement in the end, a small tuck, a bit of a straddle before finishing it off, and getting on to the strength work for the day. I was doing a variation of the deadlift, which I think it's very good. It puts the deficit deadlift is coming up in a second. It puts me in a position where I, of course, am not able to push as much weight, but the idea is to train the bottom position at the bottom of the range of motion for higher repetitions with lower weight. The hope that the carryover is going to be into leg drive. There is a bit more of a leg, of the knee and a hip flexion, and the focus is also on keeping my back neutral and doing some more volume for an exercise that I'm otherwise pushing for very low repetitions. When I'm doing deadlifts, it's mainly singles up to triples, and granted I'm doing a lot of other stuff for the hip hinging movement pattern, but it's good to get some extra volume in with heavier weights. And it was a good synergy for me to superset this with low raises, because it uses the upper back, which maybe is the only part in common with the deadlift, but it was a static position during the deadlift. It's a more dynamic with low raises. I think that these are a very good pairing that allow me to save some time. And because I'm doing low raises maybe 3 times a week, I was only doing 2 sets of these. The other isolation stuff that I'm doing, I was kind of honing in the intricacies of how my training puzzle is going. Movements that I'm only doing for a couple of times a week, I'm gonna push for 3 sets, and stuff that I'm doing 3 times a week, I'm gonna do for 2 sets each session. Getting some volume in with just body weight dips, and trying to go back to 18 repetitions on the first one, going for maybe 15 as an average, and 3 sets superset with face pulls. So a lot of upper back focus in this session. The deficit deadlift was a main mover for the posterior chain, with a little upper back engagement, mainly in an isometric fashion, and then a bit more in terms of isolation with both the low raises and the face pulls. So what I was able to get in was some explosive knee and hip flexion stuff, a bit of skill work with the handstand that also warmed up the shoulder part, and then deficit deadlifts and low raises to get some extra shoulder stuff in, as well as some strength movement, and volume with dips and face pulls, and finishing off with the core movement. Not really a movement, it's a hold, side hold. Because the previous one was very easy, 25 kilos, I went to 35 kilos for 30 seconds for 3 sets. This one I was feeling much more, so I found a challenging way that I'm gonna start progressing. Ciao.